Like, if you want a certain type of man, you should probably build yourself to be a certain type of woman that certain type of man would want. That's just common sense. So I don't want to hear you complaining about he don't do this, he doesn't do that, or he does this and that when you're with a dude who's ruled by his emotions, which usually thugs are. Like, I don't see how this is going to work in your favor. And mind you, like, I was born and raised with one hand. So there's a level of delusion that I just did not have the luxury of believing in. And it's like,
I don't know. It's something about a hood dude. Well, first of all, there's two different types of hood dudes, and my definition might be different than yours. But the main reason I wanted one is because they give me a sense of protection.
I like her attractive and tattoo. Nah, for real.
Can you say that
like,
again?
That's what I want.
Say it one more time. Say it one more time.
Drug dealer that eat the like a vacuum. I want all of that.
Oh, okay.
Give me all of that.
Why?
What you mean?
Why you like hood? Like, what do hood do for you? So you feel like only a hood can protect you?
I love me a hood.
Nobody asked you that.
I love him to tell me what to do.
So you need somebody that could put you in your place.
Yeah.
I need you to elaborate what's putting you in your place.
Yo, babe, I'm outside. Bitch, the you not.
Umar, I don't know if you listening, I don't know if you watching, but this is the shit we be talking about. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand how men are supposed to be responsible for the poor decision making that they make in men on a regular basis.
There's some kind of fetish with street dudes because we mistake them as being more masculine.
alright, so this is a conversation that must be discussed, you guys. I recently had a Jubilee episode. It's not out yet. And this was like one of the threads of the conversation. Excuse my nipple if it comes out. So I really want to talk about this because this is a thing, especially within the black community, of women being drawn to Tyrones, especially, you know, there's like a large bulk of black women that are heavily drawn to the Tyrone or the thug archetype of a man. And usually when you ask them, or when you listen to them, you'll hear things like what I just showed you, where they feel like this particular kind of man can protect them, can, you know, really just, it comes down to security and protection. And usually these women, you know, they didn't have father figures growing up, you know, lack of grounded, solid male figures in their life, and they feel like they get that with these hyper masculine figures, which I'd argue that they're really not masculine at all, right? It's a lack of self-control, which isn't masculine, right? But for whatever reason, the women feel like, you know, this is it, like he can protect me, he can give me security and all these things, which is why it's very important for men to be in their children's lives, you guys. You know, I remember seeing the statistics, like 70% of black children are born out of wedlock, which is crazy. I can't go into specific details on this particular episode because it's not out yet, but I want to really dive into this because I think it's very fascinating, and this got brought up at a small segment. But the conversation, you know, when you're on Jubilee, there's so many different people at play, so the conversation will kind of lead and stray. But I can go, you know, a lot deeper into this on my particular YouTube channel, and so I wrote down some stuff I kind of want to get into. I will say this, another thing I noticed too, this is really with women in general, but like you can really see it with black women. They will always have, very rarely do they like take accountability. Like they will always break something down to a point to where they can't actually blame themselves. For example, like if the conversation of black women being drawn to thugs comes about, they'll go as far as to say, well, we were, what's the word, manipulated to think that black men, we want black men like that because of the media, right? Because what we saw, how they did black men and in films and stuff like that. So that's where we're going. And like the clips that I just showed you, they didn't do that, but you can find a lot of like Reddit threads and other videos that women will say, like they'll kind of like break things down, like that's what we saw in the media, so that's why we went for that. Very rarely will they say like, oh, like I actually shouldn't go for men like that because it's wrong. Like you never hear the conversation go in that way. And it really just, for me, it just seems like, I always think back to Eve being deceived and not Adam, basically leaning into the fact that women are easier led astray than men when it comes to them being deceived and things like that. Them being the weaker vessel. And I'm not saying this in a demeaning context, but I think it's important for men and women in general to know their weaknesses and strengths. For example, like men usually struggle with like anger and pride and things like that. Women are easier led astray. So it's important that you know what your issues are so you can deal with them and grow, right? But like you kind of see like women are easier led astray. I mean, think about the idea of a pimp, right? The fact that a man could get a woman so beside herself that she's willing to do any and everything for this particular man. Like I was saying, like on this episode on Jubilee that's not out yet. Like I've seen it to where women are so drawn to this thug archetype, right? This thug guy that he has given her STDs and she is still banging on his door talking about I love you. Like these men do not care about you, right? Like they are concerned about themselves. Ironically enough, that's what draws women to them, is because they don't make the woman their whole world. Oftentimes women will say that they want to be, you know, the man's whole world, but when you actually do that, it doesn't ever work in the man's favor. And so yeah, what else I got here? I wrote down some things. Yeah, so there's like a perceived confidence and dominance thing, like emotional intensity, things sometimes associated with thug stereotypes. Yeah, women find, for whatever reason, the thug to her, if she doesn't have a grounded man in her life, encompasses all these things that a woman would be drawn to, right? But they don't see the negative things. Like they don't see how this, like stuff like this will look good on camera or on social media, right, to women, but in real life that does not work in your favor, right? You can't be with a man like this because he's out of control. And this is like the emotional highs and lows. Because women are so emotional, they're drawn to these things, right? It's like, reminds me of this scripture in the Bible. Where is it? In Jeremiah, it says, the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I think a lot of women, especially black women, well, women in general should really meditate on that scripture, because oftentimes your feelings will lead you astray. And you have to know this, which is why it's a nice balance for a solid man, a grounded man, to be in a woman's life, because men are not led astray so easily by their emotions. We're more logical than women, right? Women are the ones they're the ones doing all these feelings, and you cannot live your life through your feelings. You know that. Think about if you're a woman and you're listening to this message now, how has that been working for you? I'm sure, especially when it comes to dating, right, between men and women, you have to be careful about who you choose to give your time to. You know, if you're feeling a certain way about a certain guy and you know, like in your logical mind, I shouldn't be with this guy or talking to this guy, you should listen to that over your feelings, because oftentimes your feelings will lead you astray. Another thing that I had seen and I had wrote down on this particular topic was, or this kind of stemmed from that episode, but like black men being portrayed as thugs and stuff like that. Honestly, as a black man, I don't, like maybe back then that was the case, but as of today in 2025, I don't think black men are being portrayed as thugs, or like, I don't feel like that when I go out in my everyday life. I live in California, Southern California. I don't think that I'm being portrayed as like this crazy dude, or even when I go on Netflix, or I think a lot of the issues within the black community is very, very heavily in the victim frame of mind. And I can give us grace in that, yes, there was a point in time where that was happening. But today, I would be dishonest if I'm like, yeah, we're portrayed as all this stuff, because I really just don't see that today. And mind you, like I was born and raised with one hand. So there's a level of delusion that I just did not have the luxury of believing in. And it's like, how can I explain this? Dating, when it comes to dating, when I'm growing up, right, and if there's a woman that's not interested in me because of my hand, I'm not going to tell her, you need to be interested in me and you're wrong for not being into me because of my hand. That's not how this works. The reality is, she's just not attracted to me because of my hand, and there's nothing wrong with that. You cannot argue somebody down and try and make them be into you. And I see that a lot within the black community, you know, for example, like the whole light skin, dark skin thing. Women will say things like men were conditioned to like lighter skin tone because of the upbringing, you know, when they used to split us apart. And I'm just like, well, what if he actually just likes light skinned women? Or what if he just likes dark skinned women? Like, it's not everything is this deep rooted thing. People are attracted to what they're attracted to, usually by proximity, right? Whoever is around, like whatever city you're in, village, whatever is around, you're gonna be like, okay, I'm attracted to this woman, not because you've been manipulated or things. Though, like usually you will hear that from women. Men don't usually say things like that. So it's just like, I have never sided with the whole victim thing. You know, there's no growth without opposition. Like, yeah, some things may be a little bit harder for us, but that's okay. Like complaining about it, isn't doing anything if you're not actually making changes. Like, you have to live in reality. That's one thing this hand taught me, was like, the reality is I have one hand and not everyone is attracted to it. Okay, so just go where I'm appreciated. Like that, you gotta, like, the reality is, like, when I learned, when I was growing up, when I was getting into my coming of age years and, you know, dating is becoming a thing, I learned, like, okay, if I had low self-esteem because of my hand dealing with women, they are less attracted to me. But if I'm just myself, if I'm confident, oh, I got the number. Oh, she wanted to hang out. Oh, so I note that. So, like, you just have to move with what is. You can't, I'm not gonna try and, like, make someone feel bad because they're not into me. And I want black women to really grasp that, especially when we start talking about weight and things like that. And it could just go really, really deep. Like, you need to lose weight. That's just the real thing, right? You need to lose weight. You need to work on yourself. Probably kind of got off topic, but there's just so much to this topic. And women or a large chunk of black women being drawn to thugs is something that is very commonplace in the black community. And I guess maybe for the men who aren't that, because obviously not every black man is a thug. Go where you appreciate it. You know, so if a woman's into that, that's her issue. You know, if she's with a man that's a quote unquote thug, then she gotta come with the headaches that come with that. And that's what I don't wanna hear. Like, if you're with that archetype of a man who is controlled and ruled by his emotions like a woman, then you signed up for that. So I don't wanna hear you complaining on TikTok, Instagram about he ain't doing this, he ain't doing that. Well, look at yourself, right? Become the kind of person, like, if you want a certain type of man, you should probably build yourself to be a certain type of woman that certain type of man would want. That's just common sense. So I don't want to hear you complaining about he don't do this, he doesn't do that, or he does this and that when you're with a dude who's ruled by his emotions, which usually thugs are. Like, I don't see how this is gonna work in your favor. So I'm gonna leave the video at that. Let me know what you guys think of this. This is one of my little rants. I just, you know, wanted to kind of go into depth on, especially since I had that Jubilee episode. When it comes out, I'm not gonna say what it is. I'll do a breakdown of it because there is a lot of points that I wanted to go in depth on that I couldn't because of all the conversation. And I will definitely be breaking it down, expanding on certain topics, and I think it'll be fun. Let me know what you guys think of this video. Comment down below and we'll go from there. I'll see you guys next time.